Hello, this is Layan from Golden Memories. Today's story is titled Father's Shoes. There are things we only begin to understand when we finally walk the same road as someone else. And sometimes, that understanding begins with a single pair of shoes. When I was a child, my father's shoes always seemed enormous. They rested neatly by the door, dark brown, slightly worn at the tips, polished to a quiet shine. Every morning, I'd watch him tie the laces, smooth his pant legs, and step out with a heavy yet steady stride. He never said much when he left, just a simple, "I'll be back." But the sound of those shoes, that firm rhythmic tap against the pavement, lingered long after the door closed. To me, those shoes meant adulthood, responsibility, the weight of someone who carried a whole family on his shoulders. I didn't think about where they went, only that they always came back covered in a thin layer of dust, as if they had traveled far beyond my small world. One day I tried them on when he wasn't home. My feet swam inside them, my steps awkward and clumsy. The leather squeaked and I almost tripped. I remember laughing. I thought being a grown-up was simply about fitting into big shoes. Years passed. I grew up, left home, and bought my own shoes, sleek, new, and free of scuffs. I told myself I'd never be like my father, always working, rarely resting, silent in his fatigue. I wanted a different life, lighter, freer. But life has a quiet way of circling back. When I got my first job, I found myself waking before dawn, just as he did. Packing a lunch, adjusting my tie, and hurrying out the door before the sun had fully risen. And one morning, as I caught my reflection in the mirror, I froze. There I was, shoulders slightly stooped, shoes dulled at the tips, hurrying to catch the day before it slipped away. That evening, when I came home, I saw my own shoes lined neatly beside the door. A faint memory stirred. That same image from my childhood. Only this time, the shoes were mine. Then came the day I returned home for good, after father passed away. The house was quieter than I remembered, the air heavy with the scent of old wood and dust. By the door, his shoes still waited. I reached down, ran my hand along the cracked leather. They were lighter than I expected, almost fragile. Inside, the soles were worn thin, the imprint of his feet faint but unmistakable. The shoes told the story he never did, of countless mornings, long walks, silent endurance. I sat there for a long time, holding them. The man who had once seemed distant suddenly felt near, as if he'd just stepped out for a moment and would return any minute. I realized then how little I'd truly known him. Not out of neglect, but because some things can only be understood when life teaches you the same lessons in its own way. A few weeks later, I decided to keep his shoes. Not to wear, but to remember. They sit by my own door now, a quiet reminder of the road he walked so I could walk mine. Sometimes when I leave for work, I glance at them and whisper, "I'll be back." The same words he used to say. It feels like a small conversation between us, one that finally makes sense. Life is like that, isn't it? When we're young, we see our parents' lives as distant and unrelatable. But as we grow, we begin to trace the same steps, through fatigue, hope, and quiet perseverance. And one day, without realizing it, we find ourselves standing in the same footprints, looking back with understanding instead of judgment. There's a saying, you can't truly know a person until you've walked a mile in their shoes. Perhaps that's what growing up really means, learning to walk with empathy, and finally recognizing the love that once walked silently beside us. Now, whenever I polish my own shoes, I take my time. I think of father, bent over in the early light, doing the same, not because he cared about appearances, but because he wanted to start each day with quiet dignity. I can almost hear the gentle sound of his brush, the rhythm of his care, and in that sound I find peace. We may never fully fill our parents' shoes, but perhaps, in trying, we discover who we truly are, and who they really were. As you listen today, did someone's footsteps echo in your heart? Maybe your father's, your mother's, or even your own. Each of us carries the sound of those steps, the ones that guided us, the ones we now leave behind. Until next time, this is Leon from Golden Memories, wishing you gentle days and warm memories. Good night.